Hey, what is going on, everybody? Today we are doing some English activities. We're going to be learning about dependent versus independent clauses. So, what does that even mean? All right. So, what's a clause? All right. It's a group of words that contain a subject and a verb. So, it's a sentence. All right. Bare bones, breaking it down. A clause is a sentence. Okay. It can be a little bit more, but you'll see in a few slides. But for purposes of today, it's a sentence. All right, it's got to have a subject and a verb. Um, Not only does it have to have that, it has to have a predicate. A predicate is the back half of a sentence. So the subject is the first part of the sentence, and then the predicate is what precedes it, what comes after. All right. So let's do some quick vocab. All right. Subject. That's what the sentence is about. So look at the sentence. Mr. Lopez is teaching us about English. The subject would be Mr. Lopez. All right. The rest of it is teaching us about English is the predicate. All right. It's the part of the sentence where it shows what the subject is doing or the part with the verb. All right. So the subject has to do something. If you just say Mr. Lopez, that's not a sentence. It's just you're calling my name, right? Uh, it has to have something preceding it. The subject has to be doing something. It there's not sentence has to have a purpose. All right. If you're talking about what the subject's doing, it could be anything. Like I'm going to the movies. I is the subject. I'm going to the movies is the predicate. Going is the verb. All right. So just break it down like, oh man, we're going into school today. We is the subject. Or um, why did you do that? You would be the subject, and the rest would be, you know, the predicate, right? It's what after. What comes after? Well, don't. Okay, that one's different because it's a question. But for non-questions, nothing like that. Basic sentence, right? Ends in a period. Subject, predicate. All right. So let's get back to clauses real quick. All right. A clause is no. It's not Santa Claus. All right. The only reason you would probably put an E at the end of Santa Claus is because of this Tim Allen movie, all right? Santa Claus does not have an E in his name. It's just Claus, all right? Um, the only reason it has an E now is because people associate the movie with Santa Claus. And the reason the movie is called The Santa Claus is because a clause can also mean a legal term, which means part of a contract. All right, so it's a pun. That's the whole reason. That's the whole name of the movie. The movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but the only reason Tim Allen becomes Santa is because Santa, like the last Santa, dies or something, and then Tim Allen reads the contract and he's like, "Oh, you put on the suit, then you're the next Santa. He puts on the coat, and so it's the clause. It's a Santa Claus. So, anyways, I would just wanted to clear that up because a lot of people think, oh, Claus, Santa, haha. No, it's not that. All right. So let's move past this. All right. A nice little side note, maybe I don't know. You can go tell someone, hey, Santa Claus isn't spelled with an E. They might blow their mind, right? Mandela effect or something. Who knows? All right. Okay, so let's get back to it. Independent clauses. An independent clause is a sentence that can stand on its own. It's a complete thought, makes sense by itself. I went to Burger King. All right, that's an independent clause. Stands on its own. If you told someone I went to Burger King, completely, it makes sense. I is the subject and went is the verb. All right. There's also a dependent clause. This one can't stand on its own. It has to be attached to an independent clause. All right. It's depending on another part of the sentence to be complete. So look at the picture. This is the where's my mouse? All right. This is the dependent clause, and this is the independent. It has to attach itself to it. It has to be some sort of. It's got to be associated in some point, in some way. So it is. It doesn't make sense on its own. All right. It's not a complete thought. So because I was hungry, is not a complete sentence. If you just go to someone and say, because I was hungry, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Why? Oh, it's okay. So it doesn't count. All right. So it's got to make sense. Like you go up to your parent, go up to your friend and be like, because I was hungry, and then walk away. They're going to be really confused. All right. But if you switch it up and say something like, oh, I didn't have something there. But if it's something like, oh, I'm angry because I was mad because I was hungry, then it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or something, you know? But a dependent clause doesn't make sense on itself. It has to be with some sort of independent clause so we can all stand together. All right, so they're both similar in that they have a subject and a verb, and both are sentences. Dependent clauses aren't good sentences, but they're sentences. All right. Um, because I was hungry, I is the subject, was would be the verb, right? But it doesn't make sense still. You still have to attach it somewhere so it can make sense. So one way to think of it is if I'm telling my friend this thought, would it make sense? Would it be able to stand on its own? Would I not seem like I'm losing it or something? All right, so you want to think critically about how each sentence is constructed. You may be using dependent clauses when you speak and get confused because if you say because I was hungry, if you're speaking that, it would make sense if it's in a certain context, like because I was hungry. That it sounds like a complete thought, but it really isn't. You have to really think critically because when you're writing, it's not how you're speaking. All right. A lot of you write your essays and your sentences as if you were talking, and that's not how it should be written. All right. So keep watching these videos because we're going to make sure your essays are good stuff. All right. So I just want you to practice identifying a dependent and independent clauses. All right. So sentence number one is Kimberly loves to go to the beach. Is this an independent clause or is it a dependent clause? And go look at number two, since last week. Three, they went to Disneyland. And four, because I said so. I want you to just identify dependent or independent. All right. Take some time, pause the video, and work them out. And then when you're ready, unpause. All right, so let's check some answers, right? Number one, Kimberly loves to go to the beach. That's an independent clause. Since last week, that's a dependent clause. They went to Disneyland, independent clause. And because I said so, dependent. Because I said so it's a little tricky because you'll hear it a lot. Like, oh, why do I have to do this? Because I said so. It's not a complete thought. Like it's just if you took because I said so, it'd be like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. Like because so what? Because you said so. What did you even say? Like, it's the whole thing, right? So since last week is it doesn't make sense unless you attach it to something. So you go up to someone, you come up to me and be Mr. Lopez since last week, and then that's it. I'm not gonna know what you're talking about. But if you tell me Kimberly loves to go to the beach, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Or if you said they went to Disneyland, I'd be like, oh, awesome, some good stuff. Makes sense. So keep moving forward, right? Meet the Robinsons. All right, so here's some things you need to keep in mind. Some sentences may have both a dependent and independent clauses. These are called complex sentences. So when you're attaching the dependent to an independent clause, it makes the sentence complex because you're adding a little twist. Just saying I went to Burger King, and it's like okay, simple sentence. But if you're like, oh man, because I was so hungry, I went to Burger King, got some chicken fries. That's complex sentence. We'll look at more types of sentences in the future. If that video is up, go ahead and go watch that. But yeah, so let's look at this example. Because of the weather, comma, Lauren had to wear a coat to school. Because of the weather is a dependent clause, and Lauren had to wear a coat to school is an independent clause. Breaking it down even further, Lauren would be the subject, and wear would be the verb. Okay? So we got everything actually. So go ahead and thank you for watching. Submit your notes. That practice needs to be completed, and I need to see your work. All right. So we're going to be doing a lot more with dependent and independent clauses as we go along. This is just the touching the surface. All right. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.